Hello, listeners. I am back. I will continue to read the book Ikigai. We are in chapter 3. Sorry, just to mention Ikigai by Hector Garcia and Francis Mirals. I'll start reading chapter 3. Please subscribe to my channel. It will give me immense pleasure that at least somebody out there is listening to the stories that I read out. Thank you so much for listening. So let's continue. Chapter 3 of Ikigai. Okay, chapter 3. From Logotherapy to Ikigai. How to live longer and better by finding your purpose. What is logotherapy? A colleague once asked Viktor Frankl to define his school of psychology in a single phrase, to which Frankl replied, "Well, in logotherapy, the patient sits up straight and has to listen to things that are on occasion hard to hear." The colleague had just described psychoanalysis to him in the following terms. In psychoanalysis, the patient lies down on a couch and tells you things that are, on occasion, hard to say. Frankl explains that one of the first questions he would ask his patients was, "Why do you not commit suicide?" Usually the patient found good reasons not to and was able to carry on. What then does logotherapy do? The answer is pretty clear. It helps you find reasons to live. Logotherapy pushes patients to consciously discover their life's purpose in order to confront their neurosis. Their quest to fulfill their destiny then motivates them to press forward, breaking the mental chains of the past and overcoming whatever obstacles they encounter along the way. Something to live for. A study conducted by Frankl in his Vienna clinic found that among both patients and personnel, around 80% believed that human beings needed a reason for living, and around 60% felt they had someone or something in their lives worth dying for. Next para, the search for meaning. The search for purpose became a personal, driving force that allowed Frankl to achieve his goal. The process of logotherapy can be summarized in these 5 steps. 1. A person feels empty, frustrated, or anxious. 2. The therapist shows him that what he is feeling is the desire to have a meaningful life. 3. The patient discovers his life's purpose at that particular point of time. 4. Of his own free will, the patient decides to accept or reject that destiny. 5. This newfound passion for life helps him overcome obstacles and sorrows. Frankl himself would live and die for these principles and ideals. His experiences as a prisoner at Auschwitz showed him that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms: to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. It was something he had to go through alone without any help, and it inspired him for the rest of his life. 10 differences between psychoanalysis and logotherapy. Psychoanalysis, logotherapy. In psychoanalysis, the patient reclines on a couch like a patient. In logotherapy, the patient sits facing the therapist who guides him or her without passing judgment. Psychoanalysis, in retrospective, it looks to the past. Logotherapy looks towards the future. Psychoanalysis is introspective, it analyzes neurosis. Logotherapy does not delve into the patient's neurosis. Psychoanalysis, the drive is toward pleasure. Logotherapy, the drive is toward purpose and meaning. Psychoanalysis centers on psychology, whereas logotherapy includes a spiritual dimension. Psychoanalysis works on psychogenic neurosis. Logotherapy also works on noogenic or existential neurosis. Psychoanalysis analyzes the unconscious origin of conflicts, instinctual dimension, whereas logotherapy deals with conflicts when and where they arise, spiritual dimension. Psychoanalysis limits itself to the patient's instincts. Logotherapy also deals with spiritual realities. Psychoanalysis is fundamentally incompatible with faith. Logotherapy is compatible with faith. Psychoanalysis seeks to reconcile conflicts and satisfy impulses and instincts, whereas logotherapy seeks to help the patient find meaning in his life and satisfy his moral principles. Next para. Fight for yourself. Existential frustration arises when our life is without purpose or when that purpose is skewed. In Frankel's view, however, there is no need to see this frustration as an anomaly or a symptom of neurosis. Instead, it can be a positive thing, a catalyst for change. Logotherapy does not see this frustration as mental illness, the way other forms of therapy do, but rather as spiritual anguish, a natural and beneficial phenomenon that drives those who suffer from it to seek a cure, whether on their own or with the help of others, and in doing so to find greater satisfaction in life. It helps them change their own destiny. Logotherapy enters the picture if the person needs help doing this. If he needs guidance in discovering his life's purpose and later on overcoming conflicts so he can keep moving towards his objective. In Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl cites one of Nietzsche's famous aphorisms: "He who has a why to live for can bear with almost anyhow." Based on his own experience, Frankl believed that our health depends on that natural tension that comes from comparing what we have accomplished so far with what we would like to achieve in the future. What we need then is not a peaceful existence but a challenge we can strive to meet by applying all the skills at our disposal. Existential crisis, on the other hand, is typical of modern societies in which people do what they are told to do or what others do rather than what they want to do. They often try to fill the gap between what is expected of them and what they want for themselves with economic power or physical pleasure or by numbing their senses. It can even lead to suicide. Sunday neurosis, for example, is what happens when, without the obligation and commitment of the work week, the individual realizes how empty he is inside. He has to find a solution. Above all, he has to find his purpose, his reason for getting out of bed, his Ikigai.